John Murphy at Murtech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on December the 27th in the year of our Lord 2025. And as usual, I've got some great stuff for you tonight. Let's go ahead and jump over here to my Rumble channel. And this is the video we're watching tonight, my live stream episode 1789. Let's go ahead and get into this. Pause this, close out the live chat for right now. Slide down here and click the show button. Expand that out, and we have information from Black Conservative Perspective, Glenn Beck, McWattersaffect, and Vince Dow. But before we get into that, I do have some shout outs to give out from NetsF8, just started following my channel. Medi Expert 076, follow my channel. Arf2 just started following my channel. Rosie McC 52 just started following my channel. 740-338-0928 just started following my channel. Are We Free People just started following my channel. And Clarado 3 just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. Very nice Christmas gift, I'd say. All these people following my channel, thank you so very much. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie VS reposted my episode 1788. Fisher C and Tara Sanez commented on my daily news wrap-up from last night. Media Expert 076 and Cottonball 31 commented on my episode 1788. Debbie BS commented on my extra 571A, 571B, and 571C. So thank you very much, folks, for your comments and reposting my videos. I greatly appreciate that. Let me go ahead and click the thumbs up button for this. And by the way, in case I haven't mentioned it before, there is a thumbs up button just right below the video you're watching. So if you scroll down there and click that or tap that on your phone, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Okay, well, let's get into this. Conservative Perspective, Elon Musk issues fatal warning for New York City after Zohran Mandami appoints woke lesbian as next fire chief. Utterly amazing. Let's see what he's got to say.
In the tweets that he's done since the start of his administration, thousands of sweeps have happened since 2024, but no one has been offered permanent housing. And I think the data from May was 114 were offered in shelter. Will you continue those tweets? They were asking you not to.
No.
A few moments later.
Bonsignor is a career first responder. In just 9 days, she'll be running the world's busiest fire department, one of the most important appointments of the incoming administration.
And they deserve a leader who cares about their work because she did it herself, who understands every detail, and who will fight tirelessly to empower FDNY and make it the best firefighting force in the world.
Lillian Bonsignor began her career as an EMT in 1991 and was ultimately promoted to chief of the city's EMS division, where she served for 3 years before retiring in 2022. Although she never served as a firefighter, she's confident that won't matter.
I know the job. I know what the firefighters need, and I can translate that to this administration who's willing to listen. I know what EMS needs. I have been EMS for 30 plus years.
Bonsignor is a trailblazer for the LGBTQ community, who will serve as the FDNY's first openly gay commissioner. She's a highly respected, detail-oriented manager whose style has been compared to NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch, who will remain in her post in the new administration.
Boy. So we got to talk about Zohran Mandami and his quest to turn New York City into Gotham City, okay? And that starts with his appointments, who he's putting into positions of power to carry out his woke agenda. And I gotta tell you guys, it's not really looking good so far, okay? I mean, we already knew that his team would be filled with radical lunatics, but I gotta tell you, some of these picks are really crazy, and it just spells disaster, okay? Like, for example, apparently, when it comes to public safety, his transition team he has picked a convicted felon, right? A literal convicted felon, somebody who was found guilty of armed robbery, to help advise him on public safety. Yes, that's right. Zohran Mandami picked a literal felon, somebody who has been found guilty of armed robbery, to advise him on public safety.
New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is defending his decision to appoint rapper turned activist Marsland Lennon to his transition team, despite Lennon's criminal past. Lennon will be part of the team that shapes policy on the Criminal Legal System Committee. And News 12's Kelly Kennedy has the exclusive tonight. She sits down with Lennon, asking about his past and why he says it shouldn't define his future.
It's one of Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani's most controversial picks, Marsland Lennon, a man who spent years in prison for robberies that he says he didn't commit.
I've always maintained my innocence in my case. I went to trial for my case.
What do you say to New Yorkers who feel uncomfortable with your appointment?
We say that we have rehabilitation, right? We say we have the Department of Corrections, because that's what it is, correction. So if you're incarcerated for something and you go to the Department of Corrections, people should feel like that you're being corrected.
Lennon was once a rising Bronx rapper.
I never knew at 21 years of age with $1 million record deal that I would be incarcerated. You know, I thought I was coming from poverty, you know, coming from a father who overdosed on drugs.
Lennon served 7 years in state prison after a 1999 conviction for robbing 2 taxi drivers.
It's misidentification. I was arrested for one armed robbery that I never committed, and then somebody picked me out of a book.
Both victims testified, and one widow recently told reporters she was appalled to learn Lennon will advise the incoming mayor.
If she were sitting in the room with us right now, what would you say to her?
I would say that I'm sorry for the way she feels, and I actually never robbed her husband.
Lennon says his appointment shouldn't be about his past, but what he's done since.
I used to wake up in a cell and just wish to be home, and wish to be able to be productive and say, when I get home, I'm going to show people and I'm going to do these things. Judge me by the person I am now. I have a 20-year record of being a stellar individual, fighting for my community.
He says his time spent in prison gives him a unique perspective on crime and public safety.
I understand the flaws of the system.
What do you believe is the biggest misconception about public safety in New York City?
That police stop it is just not really true. And that's why I love what the mayor-elect wants to do. He wants to couple mental health experts and community leaders and liaisons with police.
Yeah, I don't know, right? I don't know. It just, to me, sounds like this is not going to work out well, okay? We've heard this woke spiel before on crime, right? They try to make these excuses for being soft on crime. Oh, we don't really need more police, right? We just need community liaisons, okay? We need mental health professionals, right, to essentially replace cops. We've seen this before, right? This is a roundabout way of defunding the police without actually saying that you're defunding the police, right? That's what this is. And we've seen how this has led to a disaster across the country. We saw this during the Georgia fortification of this country. So we're going to see, right? We're going to see how this works out. But I'm just saying, Zohran is making some picks really leave you scratching your head, okay? Like, for example, this next pick Zohran made is a retired EMS chief to lead the FDNY Fire Commission, right? So basically, the leader of the fire department of New York City is somebody who was never a firefighter, okay? And guess what? This woman has a long woke resume, right? And it seems as if this woman was picked based off DEI, and we've seen how much of a disaster these DEI have been before in the past. And lo and behold, we have yet again another one being picked to lead a major the results, right? Where they had their woke fire chief, okay? We've seen the results of this, and it looks like New York City is headed down the same path.
Announcement from New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, who announced the city's next fire commissioner.
Lillian Bonsignora, well retired EMS chief. She's now going to make history as the first openly gay fire commissioner.
Former fire commissioner Robert Tucker's last day on the job was last week after saying he wouldn't work with Mandami. But with just 9 days left, the current mayor has just sworn in a replacement, Mark Guerra. He is now the city's new fire commissioner.
There is a lot to unpack here. We have team coverage tonight, starting with Eyewitness News reporter NJ Burkett at City Hall. NJ?
Right, Mike, a trailblazer with 3 decades of experience, 3 decades as a first responder. Well, tonight, the unions and the rank and file alike are praising the appointment, one of the most consequential decisions of the incoming administration.
And now you have a commissioner that could start an IV.
Lillian Bonsignor is a career first responder. In just 9 days, she'll be running the world's busiest fire department, one of the most important appointments of the incoming administration.
And they deserve a leader who cares about their work because she did it herself, who understands every detail and who will fight tirelessly to empower FDNY and make it the best firefighting force in the world.
Yeah, but see, the problem is that she actually did not do that, right? She's never been a firefighter. So to say that she's done the work is a lie. She has not done the work herself. Again, she may have been an EMS chief. So I guess from an administrative perspective, you may say, oh, well, she's qualified, again, as an administrator, right? But she actually has not been a firefighter. So I don't know, right? You guys tell me, okay? Does this woman sound qualified? Maybe she is, maybe she's not. But at the same time, the fact that she does have a woke resume, right? She has the affinity of wokeness, so a woman, a lesbian, right? Woke. Okay, yeah. It seems to me that DEI is a part of this, right? This has DI written all over it, okay? We've seen how this has worked out. Again, look at the criticism that the LA Fire Department got in response to how they handled the LA fires, okay? And that fire chief was also a woke lesbian woman, right? And they focused heavily on DI, right? And it doesn't seem like that turned out well for LA.
Mayor Karen Bass is feeling pressure tonight from both inside and outside City Hall to reinstate fired LA Fire Chief Kristen Crowley. KTLA's Jennifer McGraw has more on the growing controversy over the chief's firing.
I just met with Chief Crowley and removed her as fire chief. It's concerning and disappointing.
Fierce backlash against LA's Mayor Karen Bass after removing.
It's a shame that she's taking the blame with something that was not within 100% of her control.
Bass saying the chief didn't take appropriate actions the day of the fires for not deploying 1,000 firefighters that could have been on the line, and adding that the chief should have communicated with her.
The communications about the very dangerous weather was ubiquitous. It was on every news channel.
While some council members stood in support with Mayor Bass as she announced the firing, other council members, including Tracy Park and Monica Rodriguez, weren't even consulted and are stunned by the reasoning.
It is not within the responsibility of the fire chief to make those communications. That's the emergency management department. That is how our city is structured.
The demotion coming just weeks after Crowley spoke out against the mayor, saying Bass knew that in the event of a horrific firestorm, the city would not be equipped with the manpower and engines, adding that they needed more than 60 new fire stations, and the department's budget was cut by $17 million.
All right, there you have it. That's pretty much standard procedure for Democrats. Screw up and blame it on somebody else, or blame somebody else for what you yourself is doing or doing. So yeah, that's called projection. But that's standard procedure. So, if I were you people in California, I'd just keep voting Democrat. I'm sure, it'll change. You've been doing it for decades now, and your state's just been going downhill down here. But keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Let me go ahead and click on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Black Conservative Perspective. I'm following his channel, giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what we have with Glenn Beck. The best way to reverse the immigration crisis. That sounds pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and listen to what he
There was a story in the New York Times that I find fascinating. Donald Trump, is casting suspicion on refugees, according to the New York Times. President Trump claims there are a lot of problems with Afghans without providing any evidence. I mean, does he have to provide the evidence on that? I mean, it's pretty darn clear that we're having some real problems, especially this weekend. We have 3 people arrested. We had 2 people shot in Washington, D.C. Then we had somebody in Dallas that was caught making bombs. Same thing, Afghani. And I thought there was a third one as well. I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of out there. But nope. And then they said he jumped right on the Somali thing, disparaging the Somali community. And, well, okay. Well, when a reporter pointed out that according to officials, the suspect had worked with the CIA, therefore would have been vetted, Mr. Trump said he went nuts. He went nuts, blah, blah, blah. Jumping on the subject of the Somali refugees in Minnesota, he said the population was taking over that state, bringing gang violence. Asked what Somalis had to do with the Afghan suspect, Mr. Trump said nothing, but Somalians have caused a lot of trouble. They're ripping us off of a lot of money. This led him to criticize Representative Elon Omar, blah, blah, blah. And then then they go on and say, well, he just wants to deport everybody. No, that's not what he's saying. I mean, is it really that unreasonable to say we want to know who is here, and if you're causing a problem, you shouldn't be here? I mean, I don't know why that is so controversial today. I guess maybe because nobody knows how to do it, Well, he's going to become a tyrant. Well, you don't have to become a tyrant to do that. I mean, that's the biggest lie, that, to defeat a tyrant, you have to become the tyrant. That's what happens in every revolution, except for the American Revolution. And it's wrong, and it's always been wrong. But, only America really has, gotten that in the past. But if we fall into that trap again, if we fall into that lie now, then, an Islamist doesn't have to destroy our Constitution. We'll do it for them. We'll be done. So you want to defend the Republic? What do you say we do it the American way? I mean, it's really not that hard. We have to defend ourselves, right? But do it constitutionally. And if we don't do it constitutionally, then isn't everything really, really hollow? If we do what George Bush said, I abandon the free market to save the free market, there's no free market. And we're seeing that now. Look how free our market is. Thank you, George Bush. You can't violate it to save it. It doesn't work that way. There's some principles that you have to live by. And the first one is security begins with clarity. Clarity, not cruelty. The Constitution demands something from us. You have to distinguish between peaceful Muslims and political Islamists. We're a safe harbor for the persecuted, but we're not a staging ground for the persecutors. And that's what's happening. You persecuted have come in along with the persecutors. So the question is not how do we remove all these Muslims? That's bigotry. The question is, how do we remove the Islamists? That's a political movement that rejects our Constitution, our laws, our civilization, everything else. You judge a person, this is going to be crazy in today's world, not by their identity, but the content of their character, meaning their actions. This is the foundation of every constitutional tool we possess. The next principle, we have the existing law. We don't need more laws to enforce it. Okay, we got them. We don't need new powers. We don't need new surveillance. We don't need to shred the Bill of Rights. Everything we need already written black and white on paper. Material support for terrorism, illegal affiliation with designated foreign extremist groups, illegal advocacy of political violence, not protected speech, immigration, visa fraud, felonies, foreign funding of domestic political movements, prohibited charity funds, money laundering, encrypted remittances. All of this stuff can be prosecuted. Calling for the overthrow of the Constitution, I don't know. Deportable if you're a non-citizen. We don't need any new laws. We just need to watch the actions and go, yep, you out. We need courage of the people, and this is not going to happen in Minnesota. You need courage from the politicians who are in charge. Use the laws you already have. The third principle is the First Amendment protects religion. Religion, not political tyranny masquerading as religion. The Constitution says Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Beautiful, sacred, essential. Except the same Constitution says no one has the right to impose religious law on others. No one has the right to incite violence. No one has the right to overthrow the republic. Islamism is not a religion. That's political, using religious symbols. You know, if you want to say the Ku Klux Klan is Christian, you can go ahead and say it all you want. But Christians know Ku Klux Klan is not Christian. Only non-Christians think that that's Christian. People who hate Christianity. The same thing with Islamism. If you're an Islamist, you're not a Muslim. And you know who knows that? Actual Muslims. First Amendment protects your right to worship. It doesn't protect your right to destroy the rights of others. And that distinction is constitutional gold. Why aren't we enforcing that? Why are we afraid to say that out loud? Why won't anybody say it to each other? Why are you afraid to say this? How about this one? The fourth principle. Deportation is legal. Deportation is moral. Deportation is necessary as a tool. We are generous. Our record is very, very clear. There's never been a more generous country than the United States. But generosity is not suicide. If a non-citizen praises jihad, supports Hamas, Hezbollah, ISIS, Islamic Jihad, advocates for Sharia law, lies on their immigration forms, I don't know, marries their brother, launders money to foreign terror groups, attends foreign-funded mosque tied to extremist networks, rejects the Constitution, or publicly calls for violence. I don't know. I don't need a single new law. That person has forfeited the privilege of being a citizen and remaining here. It's not a punishment. It's not a punishment. That's self-defense. Why is it we won't stand up for our own way of life and our own children? Immigration is not a right. I know they're trying to make it that. There are no borders. Yes, there are borders. There are. Citizenship is not a right. Constitutional order is a right. And that right we have to defend. Thank God we're already doing one of these things, the fifth principle. We're looking at the money river. Damn the money rivers. No Islamist movement grows without Qatari funding, Turkish political machinery, Iranian Revolutionary Guard money, Muslim Brotherhood, NGO fronts, charity fraud, shadow remittances, crypto transfers. Cut the financing and you'll starve the beast. This is not profiling. This is called forensic accounting. And this is exactly how we brought down the mafia. MS-13, the ISIS network, cartel pipelines. That's how you do it. You follow the money and the Constitution, and everything seems to work out. But everybody is concentrating on force. He's going to use force. He's going to use force. Why? The strongest weapon we have is not force. It's the alliance that we have with everyone who fled here. Because they were getting away from the ideology we're now saying we should fight. The Muslim reformers, the Iranian dissidents, the Yazidis, the Coptic Christians, the Lebanese Democrats, the Kurds, the moderate Muslims. These are the people that Islamists fear most because they expose the lie. They know. They were there. When they stand beside us, and they're begging to, by the way, the entire narrative collapses. The word Islamophobia crumbles into dust. Really? You're calling them? Really? The moral high ground is ours again, constitutionally, spiritually, and historically. The Constitution is a shield. Why do we refuse to use it? We should proudly use it as a shield. Take this one thought with you. We defend the Constitution not by weakening it, but by applying it fully, fearlessly, and without exception. That means you can't racial profile, no religious bans, no collective guilt, no compromise on freedom, no surrender of rights. But it also means this: no tolerance for political movements that seek to destroy the Constitution, no sanctuary for foreign-funded Islamist networks or any other kind of foreign-funded network that cares to take down the Constitution or destroy America, no free pass for those who advocate tyranny, no apology for defending our civilization. This is the balance that our founders struck. That was it. It seems so easy, but
I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. I mean, great information. I'm like 11 minutes into this 13-minute video. There's a couple of minutes left in it if you want to click on the Rumble link. But, I mean, he's right on everything that he's saying. Okay, I'm subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here and see what McWattersaffect has to say about Christmas night shockwave. Trump hits ISIS targets in Nigeria. I don't know if you've heard about this. I think I might have played a little bit in my daily news wrap-up about this. But let's check this out, see what they have to say.
Marco Rubio saying the joyous message of Christmas is the hope of eternal life through Christ, wishing everyone a blessed holiday season filled with hope and peace. Secretary Scott Turner, who, by the way, may be the de facto chaplain of this cabinet. You see these meetings, the president asks him to give a prayer. Yesterday, he posted, "The infinite has become an infant." As we celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we are reminded to adopt the humility, love of neighbor, and servant leadership that Christ embodied. Department of Labor and Homeland Security also putting nice messages out.
You know what else I appreciated from what Nicki Minaj was doing is there have been church burnings all over the globe. There has been this sort of undercurrent of persecution for.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about what was going on in Nigeria over Christmas, and Trump decided to go after ISIS there because of their deciding to massacre Christians.
Yeah, this is really good news. We'd appreciate if you like, share, and subscribe.
All right, first thing we're going to look at is a Trump statement on Truth Social.
Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop slaughtering the Christians, there would be hell to pay, and tonight there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorism to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, of which there will be many more if the slaughter of Christians continues. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America.
Key. But I remember a month ago that government denied that there was even a problem in their country. So what changed?
Yes, the coordination with the Nigerian government is key because it's not like the United States is trying to start a war with Nigeria.
Yeah, I think it's important that we're actually coordinating with the country where the bombing happened in. And the reason is because a lot of these Democrats are trying to throw in Republicans' face and MAGA's face that we'll have with no more new wars. And the thing is, look, we're working with the government there to actually get rid of these terrorists in their country. Not only that, we're not putting boots on the ground. It's way different than an actual war.
Yeah, I agree that coordinating with the government is a good thing. And look let's be honest, this is a punitive strike. So that's what it is.
But United States intelligence agencies identified that this is where the ISIS planners and this is where the ISIS attackers are congregating in Nigeria, a safe haven. And so they went and they took them out. In terms of past statements by the Nigerian president, Part of that is obviously political, but
well, a reason they actually went after these people in this area is because first thing, they're congregating together, but also this is part of their leadership in Nigeria, and they wanted to cut the snake's head off the body right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It is a tough decision for a president of any country in the world to get a call from the United States, somebody at the Pentagon, who says, hey, you have a bunch of terrorists congregating somewhere in your country. We're going to come and kill them unless you tell us not to.
Yeah, and Peter, so I was looking just now at the United Nations social media accounts. I see nothing about this. Ambassador Mike Waltz has spoken out about it, but nothing from the United Nations. Where were other leaders, not just here at home, the previous administration or President Biden, worldwide, saying that, 18,000 burned Christian churches, 50,000 Christians persecuted in Nigeria since 2009? Where was the leadership before President Trump?
That's a great question, Griff. And it might speak to the struggle that the United Nations has had over the last couple of years at ending conflicts. And that's something that we hear President Trump and his team allude to when they talk about all of these world conflicts that Donald Trump has had a hand in ending since he came back into office.
It's just more evidence that the United Nations is worthless. And I think it's time for actually to dissolve it completely, because it's not doing what it's supposed to do and prevent conflicts around the world. It does not do that. What it does is actually, in my opinion, it foments it.
Yeah, and I'd like to just comment on, look at, if Jimmy Carter, gave a warning to Nigeria, or if Bill Clinton gave a warning, maybe you could get away with ignoring it, but not with Donald Trump. When he issues a warning, it means the next step is getting smacked.
He's been back for less than a year. The United Nations didn't go anywhere. They've been around, and wars have started, wars have continued. And so that's a real problem that the UN has right now.
Yeah, let me share this really quickly, Peter. This is Ambassador Waltz. He said, Merry Christmas to the Christians in Nigeria and around the world who know tonight that the President of the United States will fight for them.
I think you have to keep in mind how brutal these assaults are against Christians, and the way they're being done, which this is YouTube. I'm not going to get into it, but I mean, as bad as you can imagine. Something had to be done. Presidents in the past were too weak to do anything. But Trump saw the opportunity as they were all gathered together, and he hit them with, I don't know, I assume dozens of Tomahawk cruise missiles. And, normally I'm not for just killing people, but these are terrorists who want to kill us. And since they can't get us, they're killing Christians at every turn in Nigeria. And I am very happy Trump did this.
I find it fitting he decides to do this on Christmas and try to help Christians in Nigeria. Also, I think it's important that, we have someone like Nicki Minaj, who I consider someone like her as a Democrat. But the thing is, she is supporting Trump on this when it comes to defending Christians around the world. Because what we've seen around the world is destruction of churches and attacks on Christians. Even in, I have to say, even in Israel, we've seen it. A lot of destruction of Christian churches during that war with Gaza and in Israel. This stuff needs to stop. We need to actually try to help these people and stop the destruction of churches and stop the destruction of Christianity altogether. The thing is, if this was a Jewish synagogue, I'd say it was wrong. If this was a Buddhist temple, I'd say it was wrong. But the thing is, because they're Christian, the left says nothing. So that's when I think we have problems here and a morality issue on the left. Because if it's a group that they consider to be a minority, or they consider to be an ally, they're completely fine with actually coming out there and defending them. But if it's a group that they don't like and they consider them an enemy, it doesn't matter. they want them gone, they want them destroyed, or they decided to go with indifference.
Yeah, just to back up your point from before, I agree on the UN. They're useless as tits on a board. I mean, what do? They're going to get together and have a meeting about taking a vote to, make a statement. Come on, that does nothing.
All right, guys, this is the end of the video. We hope you enjoyed. Please hit that like button, comment, and share this out to everybody.
Thanks for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
All right, there you have it, folks. And I can't disagree with what they're saying. They're right. I mean, the information, he said, he gave them warning that he was going to do it, and then he did it. So let's jump over here on the Rumble link and show you that this video does come from McWattersaffect. I am following the channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back over here and see what Vince Dow has to say regarding illegal migrants sue Gavin Newsom as foreign truck crackdown ends an ironic turn. Okay. Well, let's see what's going on with Gavin Newsom then.
A coalition of migrant truckers is suing California to keep their commercial driver's licenses. The Trump administration pushed states to claw them back, saying at least 8 people were killed this year alone in crashes involving big rig drivers who entered the country illegally.
These rules are not made up by the Trump administration. I didn't make them up. These are rules that are set up to make sure our roads are safe. And so if you can't speak English, if you haven't gone through the proper training courses, you shouldn't be behind the wheel of a big rig. These are 80,000-pound vehicles that can be incredibly dangerous when things go wrong. The problem is that you had Joe Biden that let tens of millions of people into the country, and then you have liberal governors who said, well, they got to work.
Well, how the tables have turned, because it looks like Gavin Newsom is now getting sued by the illegal aliens. Yes, you heard that correct. You're probably thinking, what the heck is going on here? We'll explain that for you today, because this all ties back into the very story of migrant truck drivers that we discussed many times throughout the year, whereby many different blue states, but especially California, over the course of the Biden administration, were giving out a bunch of CDLs to Biden-era illegal aliens, mostly coming from India. If you know anything about India, there's basically no traffic laws there. And so the logical consequence has been, over the past year or so, we've seen many different American citizens in states as far away as Florida get killed by commercial truck drivers who have no clue what they are doing. Well, this year, the Trump administration controversially, quote unquote, implemented some fairly common sense reforms stating that you have to be an American citizen or green card holder and be proficient in English and know what the heck is going on the highways of our country in order to drive a big rig truck. This is a move that's been massively resisted by blue states, especially California. But in the end, we did tell you the story of how the threats of federal funding and lawsuits ultimately got Gavin Newsom a couple of months ago to somewhat comply with that new federal regulation.
So many states like California, it's illegal for police to even ask a driver about their immigration status, including those in commercial trucking, which is why the administration is now cracking down using ICE, Border Patrol, Homeland Security to target trucking companies and illegal migrants issued CDLs, many from California, where officials blame Governor Newsom for issuing thousands of CDLs undocumented drivers. In just the last week, ICE has arrested 101 undocumented drivers from India, Mexico, Colombia, Uzbekistan, Ukraine, Nicaragua. You can see this there, Georgia, Venezuela, El Salvador, and Honduras. Now, the 3 that you see here, they are from India. We are told they crossed illegally during the Biden years and got work authorization papers good for 5 years. California gave each one a CDL, contrary to laws that saying only U.S. citizens and permanent residents are eligible.
Well, now in response, we're seeing the illegal alien truck drivers who are set to either lose their CDLs or not receive them to begin with, suddenly up in arms, trying to sue the state of California, saying that it's unjust. Although, guys, if we were to be completely honest about it, I'm not sure that this is a huge defeat for Newsom. I think this is all kayfabe. It's exactly what he wants, right? They're probably going to try to lose this lawsuit on purpose so that way the illegals can still get the CDLs, right? Don't be surprised if They picked the worst attorney in all of California to defend the state. They're going to put Kamala Harris, right? Or some total DEI lawyer who's going to be like, oh, I don't know what's going on. And then the judge is going to say, okay, illegal aliens, you win. It's insane. But anyways, we'll bring you this full story here today because it is objectively kind of funny, but at the same time, I am deeply concerned over the fact that these illegal aliens who already have caused so much destruction on our roads are seeking to, they believe it's somehow their human or American right to do it again. Let's tell you about it. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. We greatly appreciate it. And that said, here's the headline, first of all, from Fox News. Migrant truck drivers are suing the California DMV over canceled commercial driver's licenses. Well, that might be some good data to send over to ICE and immigration enforcement. But to make a long story short, the California DMV, which it's worth noting, they didn't do this on their own, right? They only did this under political pressure from Sean Duffy and the Trump administration, is facing a lawsuit on behalf of nearly 20,000 immigrant truck drivers over the state's plan to revoke their commercial driver's licenses. This lawsuit is being brought by the Asian Law Caucus and Sikh Coalition, along with the law firm Weil Gottshaw and Manges LLP, filed a lawsuit on Tuesday in an effort to stop the California DMV from canceling the CDLs, which the complaint says would result in, quote, mass work stoppages starting January 5th, 2026. Well, that's kind of the point, is it not? I mean, let's just be real about this, folks. First of all, oftentimes when it comes to immigration debates, you hear this rhetoric from the left that, oh, who's going to fill those jobs? But no, in reality, as many in the comment section could probably attest to, commercial truck driving is an extremely common profession in the United States. Okay, the idea that we somehow need foreign labor to be executing these jobs is ridiculous. It is the primary majority profession, and I believe the most common profession, I guess I should say, there in like the majority of U.S. states. And by the way, even if it does create some type of supply chain shortage, which it won't, right? That's a myth. No, these are scumbag trucking companies who are trying to break or undercut the law in order to pay cheaper. But even if that were true, I would still sit here and say, looking at all the crashes we've gotten from CDL drivers who clearly just like don't understand English, they don't know what they're doing. Folks, I'd rather, frankly, deal with economic disruption than be killed, right? than lose my own life because of this so-called labor shortage. But anyways, take a listen here for those full details.
November 6th, the California DMV notified 17,299 immigrant drivers and business owners that their non-domiciled CDLs, that's commercial driver's licenses, would be canceled on January 5th, 2026. That's just days from now due to an error with the expiration date of the licenses. A similar letter was sent to an additional 2,700 drivers in December, informing them that their licenses would be canceled in mid-February. For all nearly 20,000 immigrants, the DMV intends to cancel their commercial licenses without any affording opportunity to obtain a corrected license or to contest the cancellation, the lawsuit reads. But let's remember the deadly results of allowing illegal immigrants not only to cross the border and be released in the country, but then to give them work authorization and commercial driver's licenses to operate 18-ton trucks, 18-wheelers on our roads. Here's a list we can show you going all the way back to this summer in Florida. The illegal immigrant trucker killed 3, attempting to make that illegal U-turn. And back in October, another killed in a truck driving incident. In California, they've seen a number of incidences, to include in Ontario, where 3 were killed. And just last month, you had in Oregon another horrific incident that killed 2 after a truck jackknife. And then just weeks ago in Tennessee, a Chinese national kills 1 by causing a deadly multi-vehicle pileup. In Washington State, you had an illegal immigrant trucker failed to decelerate and killed 1. And you know what's crazy is in those last 2 incidences, the Chinese illegal truck driver and the Indian illegal truck driver, those crossed in 2023 in Lukeville, Arizona.
Yeah, well, as I've always said, this is an issue that really should be so common sense, because obviously there's an immigration angle attached to it. Certainly illegal aliens shouldn't be in our country to begin with. But even if you're the biggest woke, liberal, illegal alien lover, there's also just a very basic angle to this where it seems like, gee, maybe, yeah, people who don't know how to drive, first of all, shouldn't be driving, but on top of that, not being given 18-wheeler killing machines. I mean, is it that hard, liberals, to ask, oh, you're racist, you're just being xenophobic? No, we don't want to die on the roads. And after all, what do you think is going to happen when people, first of all, oftentimes are coming from countries, you notice a pattern here, that don't really even have traffic laws to begin with, okay? India there being a prime example. That's where we've seen most of these migrants from, but there's another one, this Borko Vokic guy who's probably from Eastern Europe, not really the best over there either. This one is Chinese, probably doesn't even speak English, right? If you can't read the road signs. By the way, many of them just got here. They got here in 2023. After all, it does take time in general to probably, right, acclimate to driving in a brand new country. They just said, no, let's just instead give them big CDLs, and then it's just a total mystery as to why oftentimes they cause so many crashes, because they're not used to traffic bottling up, or they just don't understand how rules or laws work, and they make illegal U-turns and all this different stuff, failing to decelerate. I mean, it just is so straightforward. But apparently, according to the migrant truck drivers and these so-called like Asian and Indian civil rights groups, no, we're actually supposed to feel bad for the drivers that no longer will they have the ability to, first of all, illegally migrate to the country and then undercut opportunities for all of the American citizens and endanger people and kill people because, don't you know, they need to be making their money. And it's like, actually, that's the point, right? We don't want you to be coming into this country and using it as a big giant grift for remittances and then endangering lives in the process. But anyways, take a listen to their excuse as to why they're trying to bring this lawsuit.
Hey, Julie, according to the lawsuit, thousands of immigrant truckers face losing their commercial driver's licenses and therefore their livelihoods as soon as January 5th, in the wake of the announcement from California officials that around 20,000 CDLs would be revoked because their expiration dates went past the date the drivers were legally allowed to be in the U.S. That decision was a response to pressure from the Trump administration after a series of deadly accidents involving immigrant truckers, including one in Florida where a driver who was in the U.S. illegally made a U-turn on a turnpike and caused a crash that killed 3 people. Excuse me. Organizations representing the truckers, many of whom are Sikhs from the Punjabi region between India and Pakistan, have now filed a class action lawsuit arguing that the California action is based merely on a clerical error that mismatched expiration dates and immigration information. The Sikh coalition saying, quote, "These drivers have spent years anchoring their lives to these careers only to now face potential economic ruin through no fault of their own. They deserve better, and California must do better." The lawsuit is asking the Alameda County Superior Court to halt, at least temporarily, the license cancellations. Julie?
All right, Jonathan Hunt. Thank you so much.
Okay, well, first of all, I'd like to point out they're just simply wrong about that. It's not a clerical error. It's actually directly in accordance. We cover this, by the way, on the channel. The reason why they're revoking these 20,000 or so CDLs with new federal guidelines, as they explain here. The DMV is required to set the expiration date for a CDL given to an immigrant on either the same day or before the expiration of the driver's work authorization or legal presence documents, according to the lawsuit. However, the lawsuit alleges that the DMV letters violated California procedure, which would require the department to either cancel the license without prejudice or change the expiration date. Very interesting how they're suing the state of California here and not the very federal government who set in these new regulations. We'll come back to that in a second. But, it goes on here to say for all 20,000 immigrants, the DMV intends to cancel their commercial licenses without affording any opportunity to obtain a corrected license or contest the cancellation, lawsuit reads. Well, the very reason for that is, of course, because of the fact that in November, after a heated back and forth between the federal government and California, the DOT announced the Golden State was planning to revoke 17,000 non-domiciled CDLs. That is the reason why, right? So again, it's not just because of some clerical error or whatever. Sure, I don't know if they're violating California law or not. California law probably mandates that every illegal alien be given a CDL, but this is about federal law. Gavin Newsom's office pushed back on the DOT's assertion that his state admitted to illegally issuing the licenses. However, according to the lawsuit, notices were sent to more than the reported 17,000 drivers. So, in other words here, right, what's happening is despite the fact that Gavin Newsom is claiming he never broke the federal law to begin with, he absolutely did. He tried to revoke a bunch of these CDLs to cover his own tracks. And then now the migrants whose CDLs have been revoked are trying to sue Gavin Newsom. Now, Gavin, I have to say, if you wanted to avoid this whole scandal, all this outrage, all this back and forth, there would have always been a very simple solution to it, which is you should have never been giving these people CDLs to begin with. I know, right? Hot take. That's crazy. But essentially, there you have it, right? The lawsuit then further notes that the cancellation of CDLs has a far-reaching impact beyond the drivers themselves, saying that the drivers play an indispensable role in our local and national economies. Oh, really, do they? Wait, we wouldn't have truck drivers if it were not for illegal aliens from India. Did you know that before Harmeet Singh, whatever his name was, and all these Biden-era illegal aliens showed up in 2023? Actually, you know, it's like when the colonists showed up in sub-Saharan Africa. The Americans hadn't invented the wheel yet, right? Much less the 18-wheel truck. We needed all those guys you saw on the screen to come over here and enlighten us and show us actually how you can haul cargo around, right? Until they showed up, Americans, no one was driving trucks. Everyone was carrying cargo on their heads, on their backs, by horse-drawn carriages. And now here they are providing essential services that communities rely on every single day, including transporting food, driving children to school. Yeah, that's another thing actually we should point out about this. People forget CDL. They think it's just about commercial truck driving. But no, these people are also driving school buses. Okay, so the very same illegal aliens you see causing all these deadly crashes, just keep that in mind. They're also transporting your kids to school. I don't know. That sounds to me like a pretty strong argument against your lawsuit, but anyways, and delivering manufactured goods. The sudden loss of their... So basically, as you heard, you know, even in that clip, the argument here they're trying to make, first of all, is that, well, there's going to be a huge economic loss on their own parts, right? Their livelihoods are in danger, to which I say, yeah, that's the entire point. Yeah. You shouldn't be an illegal alien. I know it sucks. Have you considered going to another country, right? If you're going to sit here and say, oh, America no longer has opportunities for illegal aliens like us. Yeah, that's the point. Go somewhere else. You don't even have to go back to the home country. Just go somewhere else, okay? You want to pick some liberal country now that will be super tolerant to your extremely dangerous commercial truck driving? Feel free to do so. That's not our issue. But yes, part of the entire point of this is not only do we want to make roads safer for Americans, we also want to make the salaries and opportunities better for the potentially, right, millions of American citizens who are also truck drivers. Yes, that's the entire point. You know, so we're, first of all, not really shedding a tear about this issue. And last point I'd like to make here about the people who are bringing the lawsuit, it really just makes me beg the question as to why is it so often that these kind of woke activists on behalf of immigrant or minority populations, and I say this obviously as a minority myself, always feel the need to defend their absolute worst behavior, right? Because here you have people, I mean, you've seen the consequences it's had. You have a bunch of illegal aliens, oftentimes from India, and in this case, those are the people bringing the lawsuit, right? Who, yeah, again, driving in India is like, there's no rules to it. They come here, they endanger a bunch of people, including other Indians on the road, by the way, you know, because that's how traffic and highways actually work. There's a lot of different people on them. And yet they're going to sit here and say, no, like we're going to defend the right of illegal migrants to kill people on the road. It's insanity, you know? It's like, at what point do you, I don't know. It's just a feeling I often have about this kind of stuff, right? Look within your group and say, hey, you guys who keep doing the bad stuff, whether it's like, you know, committing crime or causing accidents on the road or whatever kind of, I guess, negative stereotype exists about, you know, a certain group of people, if you're within that group, shouldn't you be looking around and saying, hey, don't act like the stereotype. And no, we're not going to defend you for doing stuff that makes the rest of us look bad. Because, you know, personally, that's how I feel about it, right? You know, I'm part East Asian. And yeah, I mean, when other East Asians do stuff that is just like, oh, either it's so stereotypical, or it makes it makes everyone else be like, oh, those freaking Asians, whatever, right? I don't like when other Asians do that. I'm like, you're making us look bad. You know what I mean? Like, you wonder why so-called racism or xenophobia, all the things they're constantly crying about in regards to these issues. It's like, if you don't want that to be the case, for instance, right? If you don't want there to be this negative stigma around, say, Indian or Chinese or whatever, that there's a bunch of illegal truck drivers killing people on the roads, then don't stand up, don't defend the illegal truck drivers who are killing people on the roads. And genuinely, I think that a lot of people from outside the group would respect that, right? They would respect you if you said, we condemn this, we encourage our people to stop doing it. It's funny too, because I always get these leftists who say about me, oh, does he realize he's Asian? Does he think he's white or something like that? And it's like, no, I realize that I'm Asian and I present as Asian, which is exactly why I don't want to be associated with negative stereotypes, right? Because it's just the truth, if the average person, let's just say hypothetically, right, goes through their life having primarily negative experiences with Asian people, they're probably going to cast that onto me. And I actually don't want that to happen, which is exactly why, as I said, right, one kind of belief or thing pattern I do kind of feel in my head is like, well, when you see another person of your race doing something that makes the rest of your race look bad or creates a negative stereotype, you should condemn that person. You should be like, what are you doing? You're making us look bad, and that reflects poorly on me. And I that's not fair to me, right? Because I didn't do that. But that is the reality of the world, and like, we shouldn't want that, right? So obviously, like, there's negative driving stereotypes about Asians as well. And, I when I see another one who can't drive, I'm like, what are you doing? Right. But, it's just frankly, what I would say about this is like, yeah, if I were an Indian person, for example, I wouldn't want to be associated with these freaking crazy truck drivers either. But for whatever reason, the civil rights group, again, like, feels the need to say, no, we're going to defend all of these people who are from the same racial group as us, who are breaking the law, undercutting American labor, and not doing a good job killing people on the road. And then, if people start to create negative stereotypes about that stuff and associate it with a certain group of people, then you're going to cry racism. And it's like, well, if you didn't want that to happen, you should have actually condemned the negative behavior to begin with. I mean, does that make sense? I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense. But anyways, that's just how I feel about it. But let me know your thoughts about this, guys, in the comment section down below. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. And until next time, God bless and peace.
All right. There you have it, folks.
Average person.
I like Vince Dow. He puts together some really good stuff. And yes, he is East Asian, but I think he's very mega. Very mega. All right. Vince Dow, I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay. Let me come over here and see if I can share some information with you about Rumble Premium.
If you haven't already, make sure you download the Rumble app. It's free, simple to use, and the best way to stay connected to the content you want.
Once you've got it, search for my channel and hit follow. That way, you'll get a notification every time we go live. No missed shows, no extra steps.
You can grab it right now using the link in the description or the pinned live chat. Download it to your phone, and you're ready to go.
And if you prefer watching on the big screen, Rumble is available on all major streaming devices and smart TVs. Just search for Rumble, follow the channel, and be part of the action.
Okay, jumping back here to the description box, I just copied in all the live chats into a comment so I can make that permanent with this video. Okay, and these videos that I did share with you this evening come directly from the producers. I have the links to the videos in my description box as well as the links to the producer's channel. I don't get any commissions or royalties for sharing this information out, but I do like to put together some no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth to share out with you so you can get some information that is actually factual rather than having to rely on the lies and propaganda from the mainstream media. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted over here on Mertech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. Now, I would like to share all this information with you, but I just don't have the time in my 1-hour podcast. That's why I've put together my daily news wrap-up playlist. I'm going to start off with some information from Mr. and Mrs. X and go on down with American Center for Law and Justice, Truth Bomb Mary, Rebel News, McWattersaffect. I got another video from them that I want to share out. Flyover Conservative. I've got 13 videos here and about 9 hours worth of information. So go ahead and take a break right now. Grab a donut and a cup of coffee or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at be 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, and we'll get this going. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for spending your time with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.